So now we move on to the Chief Executive's report, 7.8, and ask Geoff Hamilton to introduce the report.
Kia ora team, thank you. I will do a couple of things. I'll take the report as read and just update you on a couple of things that have occurred since I wrote my report. So firstly, the COVID mandates have changed across the country, and our council are proposing that we, from the 5th of April, remove the COVID vaccine pass requirements for our building, this building, which is the event centre and library, and that will form in line with the government mandates. Also removing at that time, whilst we remain in the red setting, council meetings and committee meetings will continue to be online. And once we move back to orange, we will look to resume those meetings. Given that we're considering a move back to orange, or we believe a move back to orange will occur before the end of April, after the COVID surge wave currently is past, we think that'll just cover off 2 meetings. So there'll be strategy and policy and infrastructure and services meetings in early April. And then once we get back to the next meeting following that will be the audit and risk meeting mid-May. We're hoping that will be able to be held face-to-face. So also just on COVID, the staff COVID vaccination policy will remain, and we'll continue to have staff in the red setting working from home whilst we are operating in a safe environment. And when we move back to orange, those staff will begin to return to work, and it will operate more in a full capacity back in the offices, obviously using mask wearing and distancing where appropriate. A couple of other staff here, as you know, Dave Giddings has left us, and we've decided to split that role into 2, being the regulatory manager. Thank you, Solitaire, who stepped up and to take that portion of the role. So that will cover off the aspects of regulatory planning, animal health, environment health, and building regs. And then the second aspect of the role being the infrastructure services side, we're still recruiting for, and I hope to make an appointment with that, an announcement of that soon. Tony Pritchard, our asset engineer, has resigned and is moving to Nelson, so we'll look to undertake a recruitment in that process, and we've got some new staff joining us in the finance team and the new environmental health team as well. Update on some of the major projects. I've mentioned in there the wastewater treatment project that we'd hoped to have an update, a verbal update with regards to our remediation plan. That looks like it's going to be delayed until about the 8th of April, when I hope to get an update on our remediation plan for the wastewater treatment ponds. At this stage, the verbal update is we have received the technical report, and it's a very technical report that's gone to our engineer, Tonkin and Taylor. And we are looking at remediating scratches that potentially are deeper than 10% of the geomembrane line of fabric. And the process of doing that and the costs of doing that, we will hope to bring to the next meeting. Probably the next appropriate meeting might need to be May, but if there is an update before that, I will ensure councillors have it. The water tank project is underway. I've recently signed off the approval for the construction of the piping between Frederick Street and Dalefield Road, where the water tanks will be built. We've also just received and approved today the construction of, or the quote for the bases for those tanks, which has been the major hold-up at this stage. So now the bases have been done, we can proceed with that base work, and then the construction of the tanks will occur. On top of that, we are targeting to have those tanks in use and available prior to next summer. As you've seen, there's construction on the dog pound is occurring, And as Steve mentioned earlier on, with the depot move, we have been back twice, and we're back the third time with the scope of works on the depot move, attempting to make sure that project stays within budget. If we can't do that, we'll probably, and it's likely we may have to bring that back to council to reconsider, given it's predominantly driven by construction cost increase. And we just can't fit within a budget that was set 3 years ago in our LTP. Other than that, that's my update on what's happened since the report has been written. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Geoff. A very comprehensive report and update, so thank you. So we'll go to questions. So Dale, we'll start with you, please. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Just on page 41, Geoff, around the Carterton pool slide, I see the timing is engaged the contract by end of April. I'm just aware of a concern that was raised to me about the design and placement of a new slide around restricting access, where currently the people can walk underneath the slide. I haven't seen any design, and I'm sure it's been taken into account, but I just wanted to make sure that the new slide still enables access for people in wheelchairs or people in pushchairs and this sort of thing to navigate from one end of the pool to the other.
Oh, that's a good comment, and we'll note that comment. I think it's a fair request, Dale.
I can probably comment on that if you like, Greg.
Yes, go ahead, Rebecca.
Yeah, that concern has definitely been taken into consideration, and we had that feedback from one member of the community as well, and they've been asked to go and talk to Kirsty, because Kirsty's ensuring that everything is up to spec in the Health and Safety Department. And so, yeah, if they have any further comments, they can go chat to Kirsty about that.
Okay, thank you. The main thing is we're aware of it on multiple levels, so thank you. Right, so Rebecca, questions?
Yeah, a couple of questions. One is around the playground safety audit that was undertaken, and we're at 61% compliance. I'm just wondering, is there, I mean, obviously we're aiming for 100% compliance, but is there an acceptable standard where, you know, or yeah, what are we aiming for, and is there any urgency to any of those items?
So good question. I think there's a balance between obtaining 100% compliance and managing our costs. So there is one particular asset that is more at risk of the others, that is sort of dragging the number down, and we're looking at doing a deeper assessment on that particular playground asset. And if we can deal with that one, I think you'll find that the overall compliance will increase quite significantly. Yeah, so we're just managing the report. So now we've got the report, we can understand where the risk areas are. We'll go and do some further deep dives on those particular playground assets and yeah, bring those back to council. At the moment, we haven't got huge amounts of money budgeted in the annual plan to cover playground assets. We do have budget for it. We just need to assess whether or not we can incorporate the repairs or maintenance of these assets in the budget we've got.
Awesome, thank you. Be interesting to see what item of playground equipment that is. My second question is just around filling of Pond 1. I know previously indicated we were hoping to be able to start filling that around February this year. And obviously that's been pushed out a bit. Is there a reason for that, or am I mistaken in assuming that was happening in February?
No, you are correct, and the reason for it was less legal and more physical. There wasn't the pipe work connecting the two, so it was totally practical. We are looking at having the pipe work available in the middle of April, so we're hoping that we'll able to be physically able to fill Pond 1 from the middle of April. I've also confirmed in terms of practical completion, we won't be accepting practical completion of Pond 1 before we fill it, but we are able to use it noting that it has defects, which are the defects that need to be repaired to that liner. Filling the pond will not undermine any opportunity or legal claim we have against the installer, CHB Earthworks. So we're able to proceed with filling that pond without undermining our claim.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Robin.
You must have read my mind, Geoff, because my question was around, have we actually had an answer on the legal advice? But you've answered it already, so thank you.
There you go.
Thanks, Robin. Brian.
Yeah, I've just got one question for Geoff around the water storage tanks. Originally, when we were presented with the quotes for the water storage tanks, they came with engineered construction designs, PS1s for the foundations, etc. I see we're waiting for engineered designs. Is this above and beyond what we received, or what's the story there, Geoff?
Yeah, so we, previous management decided that PS1 was not appropriate and that the tanks were PS2s. And so they wanted a more sound structural base. So they rejected the initial design and went back to the engineer asking for a much higher grade base construction. So that resulted in, as you would expect, a significantly higher cost. So we've now that I'm here, we've gone back to our original base and we're installing PS2 bases, Brian, which is actually the same standard as the tanks themselves. So the bases and the tanks will be of the same earthquake strengthening standard, which is appropriate, right? So you wouldn't want the tanks to be standing and the bases to be washed away or the other way around. So they'll both be built to PS2 standard, which we anticipate should bring us within budget. But it has, we caused a delay by asking for an upgraded standard.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Thank you, Brian. Jill.
No questions from me.
Okay, thank you. Steve.
Thanks, Greg. Geoff, I've got a few questions. One of them's just on page 41 in regards to the swimming club. I'm just wondering, have they put a business case together, or is that what you've kind of mentioned in your paragraph is they're focusing on a sustainable operating model? Because when I was brought into the, group to one of the meetings, and they suggested they were going to go ahead with a business case model, but they were going ahead with fundraising. So I'm just wondering where they're actually at with it.
So at this stage, they're just going ahead with fundraising, Steve. We haven't seen a business case. There's nothing that's come to management as part of this requesting assistance. We are just working with them on their own fundraising program.
And they are looking at doing a business case. I think that's just work in progress with them at the moment.
Okay, so they are still wanting to do that business case, but it hasn't come to us yet.
Okay, thank you. Next one is on page 46. No, that was just mentioning Tony. I'd just like to thank him for the work that he's done for council while he's been here. So if you can pass that on. Page 47, the Lincoln Road pipe work. Are you able to tell me how much of the Lincoln Road wastewater network has been updated to this point? Because I actually thought it was updated right up to Victoria Street. Is that correct?
You've probably got me on, you have me at a disadvantage. I know there's been a kilometre of wastewater network that has been upgraded, and that's predominantly from the Dalefield Road end further north. I believe that stopped at a particular point, and from there on it is old pipe. So there's only really been about 1 kilometre from Dalefield Road as far as I know, Steve, but I'm happy to clarify that with you offline.
Thank you. Next one is 48. It's to do with the footpaths. You've mentioned in there that you've completed a footpath condition assessment and you'll use that data to inform your forward works. I'm just wondering, are streets without footpaths part of that assessment?
No, they would not have been. That would have been a road assessment. So no, they wouldn't have been incorporated in that.
Okay, and you've already mentioned the storage tanks, thank you. My last question was on the dog pound, and I'm just wondering, are you able to just provide some kind of basic plan or something like that so that the community can see what they're actually going to be getting? Because at this stage, I know there's $370,000 budgeted, but I've got no idea what's getting put down there. So I'm sure the community are quite interested as well. So can we actually see what's actually getting put down there?
All right, I think that's a good question, Steve. What we are proposing to do on our website is start incorporating our program works onto the website so that ratepayers can see the works that we are looking to do in the near future and certainly in the longer term. I think that's probably a really good point, place where we can start placing these documents, where we have a design, where we've got a proposal. We can certainly share them on our website and let the public know what we're up to. It's a good point.
That'd be great. That's all from me. Thank you for the report.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. So we'll now discussion and comment. So again, we'll go around. So Dale. No, okay. Rebecca.
Just a couple of comments. First off, just acknowledging Tony and Dave for the huge amount of work that they've put into, especially the infrastructure side of the council. So big thank you to them. It's great to see the EV chargers being installed. Great to see non-financial reporting being worked on. And just a note about those water tanks, that it's a real priority to get those up and running before summer. And I know that should be theoretically possible, but we also said that last year. So it's really, really important that we get that sorted for this summer. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin.
Yeah, I'd just like to add my thanks to Tony. He's been a great asset manager, and also for everything that Dave has done. Going to miss having them both around, and really liking the reporting, Geoff. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill?
No extra comments from me.
Thank you. Brian?
I've just got one comment probably on the EV charging. Whilst I think it's a great that we are getting the EV chargers in town, which is really cool. But I would question the sites basically, and the reason why there is limited parking in that little car park now. And if we take out 1 or 2 more car parks with EVs, it's not going to be good for parking around the event centre. I'm just wondering whether any consideration was done for something around the Memorial Square area where it's a lot more open and more parks, and probably the only question would be the availability of power there. I don't know whether you can answer that for me, Geoff.
Yes, I can, and a really good question as to why they're going there. Your final point hit the nail on the head, Brian. We need a switchboard that has sufficient current that we can draw 100 amps off in order to drop in a couple of charges, and the only available switchboard that council has that's drawing that much juice is this one in the event centre. So that's why the EV chargers need to go close to the event centre.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Geoff. And we've got to remember the size of that car park is planned to increase. So, yeah. Okay, Steve, if you commented, yeah.
Thanks, Greg. Geoff, you've already touched on it, but I just want to mention that I'm really disappointed with the delays in getting those tanks installed and the way that we've kind of gone round in a big circle and we're back right where we were before it was decided to get these massive